Welcome to a 1v1 on CoH2 Firma. CoH2 Firma, guys. This map sucks. So it's gonna be a game from Freedom. I believe you've already seen him. If not as Freedom, as some other name. Because he suddenly replays all the time and he's bad, so I hate him. So his opponent is gonna be Knob Leader, playing as Wehrmacht, and he's gonna be playing as the Soviets. So it looks like a pretty standard opening, so it's gonna be boring. Infantry company coming up from the Pioneers. Actually, 2 Pioneer opening. Oh my god. And we're gonna have a Grenadier. I do not know why you would build 2 Pioneers. This is not Company Affairs 1. So, Tier 2 coming up from Freedom, along with 1 conscript. Likely gonna get some Maxims out pretty quickly. Maxims are really good on this map, which is part of the reason why it's so boring to play. So we're gonna have some good lucks, have fun coming in, so nice sportsmanship, but as you always know, in this game, you never have fun and you never have luck. So no point in really wishing that to your opponent. So he's gonna go straight for the fuel, pretty standard capping order. Unfortunately, he really does need this point and this point just to like avoid random cutting off of like this point for some reason. Again, this map is really famous for this cutoff. This cutoff is really annoying because it's pretty exposed. On the other side, it's not as exposed because it's a little bit further towards the base and also protected by this house, but still pretty exposed. So on this map, the cutoff points to the fuel are pretty damn punishing if you let the enemy just hold on to it. So a couple Grenadiers going to come in from Knob Leader. I would have liked to see an MG42 on this map, but that's just my preference. The munitions points. This munitions point is way easier to take and hold than this one because this one has the negative cover. So yeah, and it's also separated from like the rest of the map by these hedges and just wooded areas where you cannot see over them. So he's gonna go immediately for the cutoff. Probably could sit his Grenadiers on this cover as soon as he's done, and likely can hold out on the cutoff for a little while, so that thereby securing Freedom no fuel. Of course, Freedom is going to do the same thing. He's going to do some sandbag ghosting. I do not advise doing this ever because it's scummy, but Freedom is a scumbag, so you all know. Maxim going to come out after 2 conscripts, so this is a pretty standard opening, but also a pretty effective one, so no problems with that. The Grenadiers will try to avoid the cutoff being captured, but it will be captured. They will probably be able to force back these conscripts with the help of these Pioneers, likely. The conscripts were able to get a couple of kills on the Grenadiers, but now they will likely just have to retreat just to avoid being wiped. So the Maxim is going to go to the center, and probably to the church would be a pretty good spot. Just cover this whole area with the Maxim. The Maxim's problem is the arc of fire, but for some reason when you get them in a building, the arc of fire magically becomes that of an MG42. So you always need to abuse that. This Pioneer squad almost going down, very lucky to escape, was definitely late on the retreat. So the fuel point will be recaptured. Looks like it was decapped or maybe not finished to cap. These conscripts already need reinforcing, and he's forgetting to do that because he was probably microing the escape of these conscripts. So this Maxim is in a pretty conservative location, which is understandable because you do not want to lose it to the enemy, but really if he had gone on this house, it would have been pretty safe and would have been able to get cut off again. Now about the ghosting, the reason you do this is because when the ghost is around, you cannot walk over it. Your units cannot walk over this place even though there's like nothing over here. So it acts like a barbed wire over here. Usually, you would have barbed wire covering whatever heavy cover. But of course, sometimes you just do not have the engineers around to barbed wire, so you just place a ghost of sandbags. You can also do this with whatever sandbags you please, even the British, American, and OKV one. So this other Pioneer squad was also capping down there, so definitely good use of harassment from the Germans right now. Talking about doctrines, as there's a bit of a lull. The cutoff will be regained finally by Freedom. Really should have put a little bit more priority on this. Doctrines, we have shock rifle. Mechanized Support, and Guard Motor. These are all pretty standard doctrines right now in the meta. Especially Mechanized Support is one you do not see much because it's kind of a rare commander. You do not see, like, not even I have it, and I play too much of this game, so the RNG gods should favor me and drop me this commander in the worst spoils, so let it please. But yeah, basically the problem is that normally people would want to go Guard Motor to get their Guard's Rifle Infantry, but Guard Motor isn't that great anymore. But, you know, in Mechanized Support you can get the ISU 152 and the IL-2 Bombing Strike. It's basically just like that other doctrine, Shock Motor or something, where you have Shock Troops and the ISU 152 and the Bombing Strike, except you also get the Marked Vehicle and the Guards Rifleman. So that's pretty much why a lot of people pick it. It's just very versatile in every situation, especially against a lot of defensive play. This is really useful. Shock Rifle, don't even need to say it. On the German side, we have German mechanized. In the meantime, the Germans do dodge a Molotov, but run right into a maximum fire, so that's really not going to be useful for them. And you also just go right back into the Molotov. If you have a Flamethrower on your Pioneer, it does not make them move to fire. It's not the Pyro. So the Flamethrower Pioneer might go down. Lucky. He should have gone down. Conscript with their characteristic bad accuracy coming in, saving these Pioneers. AT Gun will be coming onto the field, clearly afraid of a Flame Half-Track, which is coming on the field, but he does not have the resources right now for the Flame upgrade. Still, it's pretty prudent to get an AT Gun whenever you have a bit of spare manpower, so that's pretty good. Also, the fact that he's not chosen a doctrine is working in its favor because all the doctrines he has do have some expensive call-in infantry, which would have made his manpower situation a little bit worse. The Germans right now are lacking healing, they're lacking suppression, and they're lacking AT, though right now Freedom doesn't look to be interested in getting any kind of T70 out, especially because his fuel intake has been pretty pathetic this entire game, because the Germans held the cutoff. That was a very good move from the Knob Leader. Now, right now the Flame Half-Track is likely going to be upgraded. Actually, no, because he decided to get... he decided to throw some rifle grenades around. I cannot say, and also upgrade one of his Grenadiers. I cannot say I agree. The Flame Half-Track would have been way better, in my opinion. Right now, there's going to be no anti-tank grenades. They're coming up right now, so they're going to be thrown immediately. Again, I do not know what Half-Track is doing without any upgrades. It really should not be used as a fighting unit. It should be used in the back, like right here, just reinforcing constantly. Right now, as it stands, these constructs might actually be able to survive the extra 10 seconds for the anti-tank grenade to recharge. No, they won't because of the LMG Grenadiers. Yeah, the anti-tank grenade recharges, I believe, 30 seconds. So the big blob is going to come up to the north as these Pioneers are laying down mines, which is obviously bad because actually he is paying attention, so that's pretty good. He's going to immediately cancel the mine and retreat, so that's very good micro over there. Of course, when you are building, your units take more damage, so even just planting a mine or a demo charge, it's really easy to lose your unit in like half a second if like a big force shows up and they are planting. Definitely should be careful with that. Looks like he's using the Maxim more as like a deterrent, just in case they come up, which can be definitely useful. Knob Leader, okay, doctrines, as he's capping the fuel. So right now he's gonna regain fuel control. Right now his fuel control has been really good this entire game. He has German mechanized, which is bad doctrine. It's decent because of the command tank, and pretty much everything else is pretty bad. Spotting scopes are okay. Mechanized Grenadier group is bad, and the artillery is pretty bad. On the other side, we also have Lightning War and Suppression Support. Lightning War is likely. It's very likely that's going to come out. The Tiger is really strong, and the relief infantry, as you may have seen in some of my other casts, is actually a really underrated ability that can be very useful. Rifle Grenade will go down on these conscripts, first forcing them to retreat from the southern VP. At the same time, the northern fuel was regained by this conscript squad, but at a very heavy price. These Pioneers did quite a bit of damage on them. So while the fuel situation has been pretty good for the Germans, the VP situation has been pretty good for the Soviets, as they catch one other Grenadier squad in negative cover and decimate them. Definitely pretty bad to get Grenadiers caught in heavy cover. They're very expensive, but they're not exactly very tanky. So if you allow the conscript squad pretty easy shots onto negative cover, that's really bad. Because conscripts, really, they're only bad at hitting stuff. When they do hit, they hit hard, obviously. So another AT grenade gonna come down on the half track, pretty much slowing it down, but he's really not upgrading the flame projectors as I would have, because the flame half track would be really useful, especially at taking down this Maxim in general against building. It's really good. So these squads should probably just be retreated to base to be healed up. A medic bunker should be constructed in the base, and also phase 2 should be considered as soon as possible for the Germans. His other doctrine is Verstärkung support, which is pretty decent. It's got the mortar half track, the artillery, the relief infantry. They're all pretty decent early to mid game. Well, the artillery not really, but they're pretty decent early to mid game. Just abilities, but what this doctrine really shines in my opinion, is like a supportive role in a team game, really. So if you have this doctrine and you want to try it out in like a 3v3 with friends or a 2v2. I believe I actually do have a game with Verstärkung support a few of my casts ago on a 2v2, which Verstärkung support was used pretty effectively. So shock troops gonna calm down. When you don't know what kind of doctrine you want to go as Soviets, just go shock rifle. Shock rifle is always good. The KV flamethrower, the shock troops, even the camouflage, which is the most underused ability of the doctrine, is pretty useful. And of course the S2 heavy tank. Incendiary artillery can be useful at taking down buildings and just, forcing packs to reposition as well. Nice wipe coming in on I believe it was an LMG Grenadier from these flame engineers. Flame engineers will slowly burn away at this bunker. You'd think a wooden bunker would burn pretty quickly, but no. So these pioneers are repairing while under combat, which is a terrible idea because right now the shock troops will be able to pretty quickly decimate them. Panzer Grenadiers will come onto the field, but they are in a pretty dangerous situation. They are pretty much surrounded, and these forces should just retreat and leave the half-track be. That 2 half-track would be a shame to lose it, but really, you would not want to lose all these infantry squads. And right now, probably all these infantry squads will go down. But the conscripts are actually shooting at the half-track first over the Panzer Grenadiers, which is a mistake. The half-track was not getting away anywhere fast with the damage engine, so Freedom should have shot at the Panzer Grenadiers and chased them with shock troops. Shock troops actually have their optimum DPS at around this range, in case you don't know. Their optimum DPS is around 10 units, which is around this range, instead of point blank, which is what a lot of people think. So even chasing down retreating squads that are like a little far away, shock troops are the way to go. Su-76 will come on the field for Freedom. From his tier 3, when you don't know what to build from a tier 3, Su-76 is definitely the choice. It's just generally really good against any kind of armor, really from the light vehicles to the heavy tanks. It's just always useful, because it's effectively a ZIS on a carriage. And it's pretty fast, very cheap, very efficient. Unlike many units in the Soviet faction, it just really works all the time. Even when there's like no armor, it can still be very useful against defensive positions with its free artillery barrage. So that's always a unit you want. A demo charge actually going down here. I mean, it's an interesting spot. Detonate it. Come on. Awesome. So this is exactly what he was hoping for. I mean, you would never think that a demo charge was here. These engineers might go down. Luckily, they don't. Even then, if they went down, it would have been a worthy sacrifice just to take out that LMG Vetted Grenadier, which was the best squad right now for the Germans. So, like, the thing about placing demos in places like this is that you will never expect them to be here. You usually expect them to be on a point or like a choke point that's always going to be watched, because obviously, you need line of sight to detonate the demo. A light artillery barrage will go down on the spot where he thinks the Grenadiers are capping, but they are not capping there. They're actually a little bit further back, but the conscripts will be able to take them down because of their low HP. This half-track mechanized Grenadier group will be called in, and it will actually luckily escape one shot from the Su-76, but the second Su-76 shot will take it out. The thing about the mechanized Grenadier group is that while only costing manpower and fuel, and hefty lot of them actually, it does give you an LMG Grenadier squad, so that's pretty decent. So right now, Freedom demonstrated another fact about the Su-76 is that it can actually run over infantry, which is not something you'd think like this light of a vehicle do, because in this game, for some reason, heavier vehicles that are slower usually are better at running over things than like cars, which is very interesting. It's obviously for balance reasons, but you know, it's just kind of one of those funny things about Company of Heroes. So the shock troops will probably be able to retake the 7 fuel point, plus 7 fuel point. I do not know why I said plus 7. Got a bit of a Company of Heroes 1 flashback where the points at different resource. Nice bundle grenade will be dodged pretty easily. So KV Flamethrower is available. KV Flamethrower, this unit is really powerful. You always want to, well, not always, but most games, especially 1v1s that you play in, you will want to call this unit when you have a doctrine that has this unit. Except maybe Soviet Industry. Maybe Soviet Industries may have a better use just saving up for a KV2 and getting some other armor to support it with your fuel. Pretty much the reason this unit is just really good is that it's really tanky and it's really effective against infantry. It kills infantry really quickly. It can easily turn the tide of the game all by itself. So I don't know if we will see it. We might be able to see it because this game is winding down pretty quickly right now. Knob Leader, he's just taken too many losses. He should have microed his units a little bit better. The little bit better unit preservation would have been important. Minesweepers would have been very important. He did have a Minesweeper squad earlier, but he lost it. Again, against opponents in 1v1s, whenever you see even one mine, you always want to have 1 or 2 Minesweepers at hand every time you make any kind of big offensive. Because he was blind pretty hard by the demo charges. At this point, the other thing that really hurt him were shock troops and the fact that he was not able to keep up his harassment of the fuel, and also the VPs. Right now, he is really hurting for VPs, and while he had the fuel lead for a while in the game, right now he has lost it pretty devastatingly. So Freedom right now is floating, and I will not bash him for it because right now he doesn't really need anything. You might say, yeah, get another AT gun just in case there's like something that comes up, but right now sometimes just saving up can be decent. These Panther Grenadiers were upgraded to a flamer. Right now, Knob Leader is definitely missing anti-infantry capabilities, so I don't think this was a good idea. I think the munitions would have been better spent on upgrades for his Grenadiers, a couple more Grenadiers, and he should have just relied on the pack AT guns. As Wehrmacht, you always need to remember that the pack is pretty much the best AT gun that you can get in Company of Heroes 2, so just make use of it. So he went for a tier 3 and he's going for a Stug. I've already talked extensively about the Stug because for some reason I keep getting into replays where the Stug is featured. But I'll just say again, in case you have never watched any of my videos or you're just deaf, the Stug can be decent, but I mean for its price it's definitely pretty good. But at the same time, the problem with the Stug is obviously that it really doesn't excel at anything, even the things you'd expect it to excel at. I mean, it can be decent against infantry with the MG, but it's really not that useful against infantry. And it's pretty decent against enemy tank destroyers. And also the KV Flamethrower suffers against the Stug pretty much completely because the Stug is fast enough to chase it around and the gun is powerful enough to penetrate it. The problem with the Stug is obviously that, of course, here it comes, and it's gonna come instantly into an AT gun. Zis on wheels, on tracks, the Su-76, and it's going to be AT grenaded and possibly raped in the ass by the Su-76. She's trying to get nicely around it, doesn't even want to be hit. Again, if this fight had happened at long range where the Stug and the Su-76 was the one walking into the sight range of the Stug, this would have been very different because the Stug's fire rate and accuracy is pretty good and probably would have been able to take out the Su-76. This SU-76 will likely fall to the Shreks, but they're actually not being monitored. It seems they were on a move order, and they will not fire. The smoke will provide cover for the SU-76, which actually runs over the Grenadiers while standing still somehow, and will light the SU-76. If he was being micro at reversing, it would have actually ran over the Panzer Grenadiers as well. Same time, the KB flamethrower, I wasn't expecting this. It actually cleared the north, but there's really, for some reason, no units being sent there to cap it. So that's definitely a mistake. As allies, you always want to get, well, especially as Soviets in 1v1, and in general as allies, you always want to get the triple caps going. Unless you're British. If you're British, you can always come back later on in the game anyway. So right now, what I would suggest Freedom to do is grab as many VPs as possible, get another conscript squad and another Maxim, and also a fuel cache. That's how I would use the manpower. The reason I would invest heavily on support weapons is that in a situation like this, you want to box people in their base and just try to hold on to as much territory as possible. And actually, more importantly than you holding on to as much territory as possible, have them be denied their resources, which is possibly more important as allies than having resources yourself, because you do not want the Germans getting into their late game. First, at this point, Knob Leader, there's really nothing you can do. He should have probably waited for a command tank instead of getting his Stug. Command tank does suffer against the SU-76, but it would have provided a nice boost to his infantry. So this SU-76 is walking into a world of fucking hurt from the Panda Shreks. It will try to get a barrage off, and at the same time, the KB flamethrower will deal heavy damage to the Panda Shrek squad. If the Panda Shrek do not retreat, they might be instantly wiped. Well, not instantly, but definitely wiped over here. Luckily for them, this other squad is coming to their rescue, and they will be able to shoot safely. At this point, shock troops will be coming in and trying to ward off these German infantries, which is definitely the better solution. Fuel tank actually burnt, exploding, which is not something I've seen in a while. In case you're new to the game, fuel tanks on flamethrowers exploding used to be like the bane of everyone's existence when you had flamethrowers, because right now they can only explode when the person that's holding the flamethrower is the last guy in the squad. So pretty much whenever the squad dies, the flamethrower might explode, or maybe sometimes the flamethrower might explode on the guy that's holding it. The guy might survive. I do not know how, but he might survive and go back to the base with no flamethrower, so you lose a flamethrower. And you can actually not re-upgrade after you've done that. You can tell right now the game's over and I'm just rambling. Basically, what happens then is before one patch, like a few months ago, they could just blow up randomly even when their squad was full. Like, as soon as they get into combat, instantly they explode randomly. And as Knob Leader surrenders, GG, well played. Could have just exploded randomly and just dealt heavy damage to your squad, which was pretty much a terror to anyone who liked using flamethrowers extensively. So GG to Freedom, winning without even using his manpower because he's a noob. And also GG to Knob Leader. I hope you learned something from this game. Don't get so many Panzer Shreks. Don't rush for the first vehicle you have. You're not in any rush. Well, you kind of are in a rush when you have an IS-2 coming, but, you know. Definitely he did a good job harassing in the early game. You should have gotten a mini bunker earlier, which would have turned the tide of a few infantry engagements. He should have preserved his Grenadiers better. He should have preserved his Minesweepers better, and possibly getting the Flame half-track a bit earlier. And try to also get MG42s, because one thing that he really lacked was suppression. If he would have had a suppression unit to keep the Soviet infantry at bay, he would have been able to hold a little bit more territory. So I hope you learned something from the game, and I'll see you soon.